Hello everyone and welcome to the Candare Halloween Special 2024. I am Jeremy Colley.
I'm Jack Doherty.
And wow. And I'm Randy Hardenbrook.
Wow. Bravo.
Nailed it.
You truly nailed it. You Kobe'd that shit. And this is part 2 of our Halloween special entitled Tracking Bigfoot, because of our guest, who is a teacher and a Bigfoot researcher whose list of credits is, quite honestly, very crazy. I mean, she knows what she's talking about. If there's ever anyone you wanted to talk to about Bigfoot, this is your person. She's a former member of the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. What else? The co-founder of Zoobook Project, which she talks a little bit about in this episode. Team member for the Olympic Project Bigfoot Research Team. Boy, that one is a mouthful. Head of ABLE, Amy's Bucket List Expeditions. Has had media appearances with, let me see here, Sasquatch Chronicles, Small Town Monsters, the Bigfoot Project, the Wall Street Journal, Mysteries and Monsters, and the list just keeps going. She's won several awards because of her work. We welcome Amy Bue to the show. And boy, some of these stories she tells, would have had me running from my damn car and getting the hell out of the woods. I don't know about you guys.
Hell yeah. That is one thing I've not done, is gone Bigfoot hunting yet. And yeah, being in the woods at night is just generally creepy anyway, so.
Is that something you'd want to do, Randy, is Bigfoot hunting?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm kind of upset that I lived apparently as close as I had to like a Bigfoot sighting, that they were that close to me. I didn't realize.
Yeah. Well,
they were that far up in Ohio.
They're all over Ohio, really. Right, Randy? I mean, you've got a whole...
Apparently. This is news to me, though.
Yeah,
there's... If you search sightings, I think, and Amy will mention it in the episode, I think Ohio's like at least top 5 in Bigfoot sightings, if not higher.
I believe that. I believe that. You would think Pennsylvania would have even more, being as heavily wooded as it is and hilly and so many more places to hide, but what your boy know? Not a whole lot.
Apparently.
Shut up, Jack. All right, we're going to quit yakking, and we're going to get right to our conversation with Amy Bue. Amy, thank you so much for taking time to be a part of our Halloween special this year.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, so are we. It's quite an honor to have you here. The list of credentials you have is impressive. If there was anybody to be talking about when it comes to researching Bigfoot, it's you. A team member of the Olympic Project, a Bigfoot research team, head of ABLE, Amy's Bucket List Expeditions, and the former investigator of Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. And on top of that, a teacher. Like, how do you find time for all this?
I do not know. I do not know.
But
sleep is optional.
Right. Yeah, sleep is optional.
Yeah. So I'm very excited. We all are very excited to hear some of your stories and experiences. But before we do, can you tell the listeners and us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I live in Youngstown, Ohio.
Oh, it's my hometown.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Yay.
I grew up in Austintown and Boardman.
Oh, how fun. I grew up in Poland, moved to Cleveland, and now I'm back in Youngstown. So I feel like I have some street cred now because I actually live in Youngstown, where there aren't a lot of Bigfoots, but But yeah, I'm a teacher here. I'm also an Ohio certified volunteer naturalist. So I do a lot of outdoors things with kids and adults and take people on hikes and all that kind of stuff. I'm somebody who never in a million years thought that I would be doing something like this, because I was not really into Bigfoot when I had a maybe experience. But here I am. So since 2012 to now, I've kind of run the gamut of doing different Bigfoot things. My biggest thing, if you want to talk about it later, is called Project Zubuk, which is a cool thing with scientists and researchers and all kinds of stuff. But I'm mostly a teacher, a grandma, mom to an adult daughter who I still can't believe she's grown up, and writing a book and have some cats and all kinds of stuff.
Well,
what else do you want to know?
So let's hear about this experience. You said in 2012 was that started you down this path of researching Bigfoot. It had to have been quite an experience.
Well, yes and no. I speak to a lot of people about Bigfoot, and I always kind of feel bad that I don't have a more exciting origin story when it comes to Bigfoot because I'm not sure what I saw still. Up until very, very recently, and still depending on the day, I call myself a hopeful skeptic because I've never had a smoking gun, absolutely for sure experience. But what started it all was in 2012, like you said, I was a passenger in a car and we were driving over Meander Reservoir, which you would know, Jack,
Mm-hmm.
of all places. And again, I was not into Bigfoot. I knew of Bigfoot, thought it was fake, just a myth, whatever, and wouldn't be in Ohio. But I saw something standing along the shoreline. So we were about, maybe a quarter of a way across the bridge when I first saw it. And when you're looking out into the water, there's these cement blocks that are in the water.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there's these like seabirds, even though it's in Youngstown, but these birds that are sitting on those blocks, like the seagulls you have to toss French fries to in the parking lot of Walmart and stuff. So I can't remember what they are, but anyway, I see them, and the block that was closest to the shore, they were all flying around. And I've seen those birds, my entire life. I've been over that bridge my entire life. And I never saw even a person in there before because it is the city's water supply. It is under the Department of Homeland Security. And you're just not allowed in there. Like everybody wants in there because you want to fish in there and all that. But, I'm not brave enough to go in there. I'm like super scared about breaking the law and ending up on Lifetime movie channel or something like that. So anyway, I just see this something standing there by the shore, and it was very, very large looking. It was tall. It was very wide, which is the thing that stood out to me the most. Like its shoulder breadth was just huge from what I would think, a person standing there would be. It seemed to be so much bigger. And I say seemed to be because I'm not sure, there wasn't somebody standing right next to it or anything like that. But it was all one color. I know it was alive because it moved. It was holding onto a tree, and it seemed to have positioned itself toward where those birds were flying around, like seemed to be looking out. Couldn't see a face or anything like that. I estimate to be about 100 yards from this thing. And as we drove past it, like I didn't say anything for a while. I was just like staring at it, trying to figure out what it was. And as we went past it, I yelled out, I think I just saw Bigfoot, which was like crazy. And then the next thing I thought to myself was, well, that's stupid because there's no such thing as Bigfoot. And if there was, it wouldn't be by Meander Reservoir, But it didn't take me long to start looking into it because I just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Sure.
And I started looking into it within that next week or so. And ever since then, I say that's like what started me down the rabbit hole. I thought I would be able to very quickly prove that it wasn't Bigfoot, but here I am 12 years later thinking that it really could have been.
So this reservoir, is it like next to a wooded area?
Yes.
I would assume.
It's a big wooded area that's a wildlife preserve. I'm not sure if that's the right wording, but like if you drive around the area, it's all fenced in. You can't get in there. You'd be in trouble if you get in there. And it says like wildlife refuge.
Okay.
So, it sounds like a good conspiracy type place to hide a big
It does make sense after, because I know telling people that, oh yeah, the reservoir, you can't boat, you can't fish, you can't do anything there. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's the water supply. And they're like, well, in my town, we have a reservoir and we can boat, fish, do whatever. And I'm like,
Right. Like since then, I've been wondering, like I'm doing a lot of humming. But at the time, I never thought about that. But there's so many people who say they've seen one near there. It's crazy.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Other sightings in the area? You said a lot of people have. Jack, you act like you've heard this too.
No, that's news to me. So
I mean,
Okay.
and when I say a lot of people, I don't mean like hundreds, but to me, like
But enough.
10 people is a lot when it comes
Oh,
to
yeah,
seeing
for sure.
Yeah.
Bigfoot. But, like since I've been doing this, like I said, I started looking into it, Googling Bigfoot, Ohio, and I was shocked to find out that there are like thousands of people that say they're seeing Bigfoot all over the United States. But when you get to Ohio, it's actually in the top 5 places, according to many databases,
Yeah.
that people are saying they're seeing these. And then when you get to Mahoning County, there, I go to different libraries and outdoor shows, and people are sent to me to talk about things. And I have at least 10 sightings around there. There was a lady who said she saw one behind the fence, like down into the water with a duck in its mouth.
Oh my
There was
God.
a story, a story of a guy a story that a guy told me of a Bigfoot carrying a dead deer under its arm across the road, like one of the roads back behind the reservoir. And others, there was a young guy who told me at an outdoor show that he was in this tree stand hunting and he saw one run across a field near there, like on the back part of it. I get stories pretty, at least once a year, I'd say. So
Wow.
I don't know.
From the Youngstown area, or from the reservoir
Yes.
area.
And that's just the last place in the world I would think Bigfoot would be. I mean, I travel around the states, look at different places where, the Pacific Northwest, it's not hard to imagine it there, but Pennsylvania, Ohio, we have a lot of Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah, I remember, Randy, I don't know if you still have it. When I was in your office once, you used to have a poster on the wall that was
the map of
state
Ohio.
With a little Bigfoot marker for every reported sighting. And I was surprised. I just had to sit down and stare at it for a while because I couldn't believe how many there were.
One of my favorite things to do was to go to the BFRO website and pull up Ohio and just see the number of, reports by county. And it's crazy.
It is. And, I used to work for the BFRO, work for, I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but do reports for them.
Sure.
It wasn't like my career or anything. But what's really surprising is when you get to see the back door of that database, there are way more reports than are put out publicly for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons being that there weren't that many of us working on them. And we have to talk to each witness and vet each witness and, do all of that before it even saw the light of day. So there's like a backlog of reports. Wow. So there's more than you think. And then there's other databases as well. So one of the things I do a lot now is go to outdoor shows and I talk to hunters and fishermen. And I'm always surprised. I've been doing that for probably 4 or 5 years now. And the first time I did it, I didn't know if I was going to get tomatoes thrown at me or what. but they've been really open with it. And, I'm a teacher. I know people lie and I know people hoax. I know that there could be misidentification and all that. But when you go to hunters, I think that at least the misidentification goes down a lot, the possibility of that. And we have hunters that I've talked to grown men that started crying about what they saw, and they don't go into the woods anymore because of what they saw. So something's going on, I think.
It'd have to be, yeah. Especially for hunters to not want to go in there.
Right.
Yeah, and a hunter knows what they're looking for out there. If they see something, it's like you were saying, it's going to be hard for a hunter to misconstrue what they're seeing. Right. But when you were talking about all the requests that were coming in, some that don't even make it to the website or not requests, but rather sightings, reported sightings.
Yeah.
When you sit down and look through those, are you, you said sometimes people will hoax or goof off. What are you looking for when you read those reported sightings? How do you know?
You don't. I try to be really open when I'm going in to talk to somebody about this, because my interest in the topic is whether there could be a living, breathing creature, earthly creature out there. Like, could that even be possible? And so my research and the groups that I'm in are focused on that. But I know there's all kinds of ideas about Bigfoot, and people have really weird experiences when it comes to what they think is Bigfoot sometimes. I often wonder, is it like why they jump to Bigfoot? Like if something weird happens in the woods, why is it Bigfoot's fault? So
Right.
so sometimes I'm skeptical, but I never say never. The only report I can remember seeing that I was just like, okay, this person is pulling my leg or whatever, was that it started out really interesting. And then he said the Bigfoot came in his aunt's garage and took the beer out of the cooler, and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of thing, and then somebody pranked me. Like, I forget, it was the best story. And I called them, and like that, oh gosh, on The Simpsons, when they have, I can't even think, like when you're calling somebody's name and you don't realize what you're saying is really,
like
like it was like that.
Seymour Butts or
yes,
something.
like Seymour Butts, yes. And I didn't realize that that's what the guy's name was, something like that. And so I kept asking for him, and then he just started laughing.
Can I please speak
like,
with
okay.
Hugh Janus, please?
Yes, like that. It was me, and I totally fell for it.
Oh man, that's kind of awesome, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. But a lot of times it'll just be like somebody heard something, but they don't know what they heard. So those didn't quite make it. But
right.
I feel like we should look into all of that, because if one person sees something and one person hears some weird things, and maybe they capture some audio and somebody finds footprints, it at least gives us a story of that area.
Right.
So I like to hear all of it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, if it's in the same area and it's pretty close to the same story, and the people, there's a separation between the people, there usually has to be something.
Yeah.
I would think. So
there was one time.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think it was 2016. There were 6 different stories that came in from the same area in Cook Forest, PA. And there were 6 different people, didn't know each other. It just happened within that month and all of them were in like canoes or on rafts going down the river there, the Clarion River, I think it is. And all of them saw what they said was Bigfoot along the shore. So that kind of thing intrigues me when there's more than one person. They both have, or they all have these same experiences. I mean, it could be a really good suit somebody's running around in, right. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it could be something going on.
Mm. So let's hear about some of these experiences in the past 12 years. Since 2012, you said, on all these different groups you've been researching with, all the research you've done, have you had any other experiences?
I've had a few. Like, again, still not I absolutely know that Bigfoot is real type of an experience. I have days where I wake up and I'm like, why am I spending so much time doing this? But most days I at least believe they could be real. And now even more days I think that they are. But I always want to be honest with that. But I've had a couple weird things. In 2018, I was helping with like an official expedition. I say you don't really have to go on an expedition to look for Bigfoot. You just go camping, and call it camping with a purpose. But I was helping with one, and we had been there for several days. It was starting to rain and get yucky. I kind of just wanted to go home, and I like to tent camp, all of that, but I was just ready. Sure. So it was the night before everybody was going to go home, and I decided that I was going to leave. And one of the guys that was putting on the expedition, just said, could you please just stay one more night, because this couple wanted to go out again, and we need somebody from the staff or whichever you want to call it to go out with them. And I'm like, okay, sure. So it was myself, my now fiance, and a lady and her husband, who are now friends of ours, who were sitting in a stationary area, like at the top or almost the top of a hill that had a power line cut going down to like a small river, big stream, whatever you want to call it, at the bottom. Okay. And then at the bottom of that waterway, a hill went up the other way and had the power line cut. So it wasn't like all just downhill. It went downhill and then went uphill again. And the night before, I had led a team through the woods on the other side, and we had come out into the clearing of that power line cut. And we thought we saw something. Like, we had FLIR cameras, forward looking infrared cameras that pick up heat signatures. We thought we saw something in the woods across the opening, like across that field, but we couldn't tell what it was or anything. And who knows? But I just say that because of what happened the second night. So the night I didn't really want to be there. So always stay if you don't want to be there. That's my advice. But we were just sitting. The gentleman that we were with, he had, I forget what kind of a truck or car, but he had the tailgate up, or what's a car thing? Like the
hatchback.
The hatch?
The hatchback. Yeah, that thing. The tailgate goes down. The hatchback up. And he and I were sitting on the back of that, and we were looking down that power line cut. And this was at night, so it was dark out. And it was drizzly, like really fine rain. We were all getting cold, but we're still sitting and waiting. And we smelled something weird at first. I'm used to smelling weird things out in the woods. There could be something dead nearby, whatever. So it wasn't that odd. But then we were hearing what sounded like walking. And so we looked around a little bit, because back behind and maybe to the left of us, there was a small cemetery. And so we walked over there, and I'm like, please, dear God, don't let it be a ghost. Because I'm into Bigfoot. I'll go in the woods by myself and camp looking for Bigfoot. But as soon as you say it's haunted, I'm like, no.
You're out.
So, yeah.
See, I'd be the other way around. I'll deal with the ghost other than the Bigfoot.
Right. I know, it makes no sense, but it's just how my brain works. So didn't see anything. We were, fleering around. We saw some deer behind us. It's very, very easy to tell what you're looking at through those FLIRs.
Yeah.
So after a minute or so went by, this guy, I just don't know if they want me to say their names. That's why I'm saying this guy or whatever.
We'll just call him Mervin.
Mervin. So Mervin all of a sudden is like, oh my gosh, what is that? What is that? And he sat up so fast. He was looking through the FLIR. Like I can't remember if he did hit his head or I was worried he was going to hit his head, but he's looking down that cut. He's like, you have to look at this. And I didn't want him to give it to me, because in my head, I was thinking about, like, if you're bird watching and you don't want to give somebody your binoculars because you're going to lose the bird.
Right.
So I didn't quite know what he was looking at, but he gives it to me. And I remember that the FLIR was set to black hot instead of white hot. Because usually, you see whatever the moving living thing is in white or gray, like light gray. Well, this was black hot. So it took me a minute to figure out what I was looking at. But something was walking down that power line cut. And when I first saw it, it was probably at the second tower. And you could see the residual heat in that base of that tower from earlier in the day. So it was still glowing. And I'm watching this thing go down this power line cut. And I'm like, that looks like it's standing up straight, and it's walking. And I couldn't really at the time get a good idea of how big it was or anything like that. But you could see it the further it got away from you, it was getting smaller. Right. And it seemed to be upright. So he and I were giving it back and forth, and his wife and Lester, my fiance, was just they were just saying, you guys just look. So I still feel bad about that because they didn't get to see it. But anyway.
Sound like you didn't want to see it.
I know. Maybe not. So it gets down to the bottom, and it goes right over that embankment down to that waterway, which I was like, holy cow, because if it was a person, you'd have to like turn around and kind of rappel down a little bit. I mean, it wasn't like you're going to kill yourself, but you'd really get hurt. You're not just going to jump over there. So anyway, we walkie the other team that's coming through the woods across from us. They didn't make it in time to see from their angle. And they say, okay, stay where you are and come back. They're going to come back to us. So we had to wait for them. And in the meantime, like my instinct, I still am mad at myself. My instinct, for better or worse, would was I want to go down there. I want to get a flashlight and I want to look for this thing, because that's what we're there for. And I'm not saying I'm like super brave or anything. I'm probably dumb, but I just wanted to see what it was. Well, they were like, it wasn't my expedition. They were like, no, just hold tight till we get there. So I did. Still kind of regret it a little bit. Sorry, guys, but I do. If they're listening. But they, were on their way back, getting in their car. They had to go through the woods. So I'm like, well, Lester, why don't you go walk down to where this thing was when we initially saw it? And he was like, okay, like he's not a Bigfoot guy. He just supports me,
Sure.
Thinks we're all crazy, but he's like, okay. So he walks down there. And when he got to where Mervin is his name and I had first seen it, we're like, oh my gosh, he looks so small. And I realized this is all like after the fact and your brain is trying to make sense of it. So he seemed to be very small compared to what we had seen in that same place. So I'm like, retreat, get back up here. And he did. And then when the other team came, one of the team members, we call him Big Kevin because he's about 6'9", so he's big.
Sure.
And his name's Kevin, so that's why. Yeah. So we're like, Kevin, you go, you walk down there. And we want to kind of try to compare you against what we saw. So he walks down, and I have never, like, I teach English, right, and reading, and I love British literature and all that kind of stuff. But I've never fainted in my life. But when he got to the spot and I looked through that FLIR, I had to grab onto Mervin, like my knees kind of buckled. I was really startled by how much smaller he seemed to be than what we saw. And especially, again, the shoulder width. So we're like, what in the world? Because honestly, I go out looking for Bigfoot, right? For all of these years, I don't really think I'm going to find anything. Like, there's still a part of me, like, it's not real. So that's why it's not scary to go in the woods because, it's not real. But I think I tell myself that also to make it so I can go out there. But it was shocking how much smaller he was. So he came back up. We did all these tests. Like, he would stand there and he would put like 2 fingers up or 5 fingers up or whatever. And we could tell everything. We could tell the other guys that went down, they were wearing hats or jackets or their boots because the heat is different, through that FLIR. Like I said, there were deer behind us. We could see them, knew they were deer. So we could tell what everything was. But what we had seen walking, it just seemed, large and human shaped. But it was all one color. So I still say it's like either Bigfoot or a really big naked guy running around. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Which is almost as scary.
Which is probably scarier. Probably scarier. But what they did was, I thought this was smart. They had me and Mervin separate. Like, we didn't talk about what we had seen. I ended up getting a hotel room so I could be around there and then go out and look at the area the next day, which was all matted down. We didn't find any prints or anything.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, me too.
I know. But I wrote down everything that happened and I drew a picture, and he wrote down everything that happened and drew a picture. And 2 weeks later, we didn't talk for 2 weeks. We all got back together like around a campfire, and our stories and pictures like were the same.
Oh man.
And what I say is, what I drew mine kind of like was almost like a walking Christmas tree with shoulders. I mean, it wasn't like totally pointed. It was more rounded a bit, but it was a lot thinner at the top and then just huge, but I have to say this, that was creepy. I can't prove what it was. It was in an area where there were a whole lot of other Bigfoot sightings, including by a police officer who waited until he retired to tell his story.
Oh, wow.
Things like that, but I don't know for sure what it was, but that's one of the things that happened to me. I have some other things too, but
you said that you smelled something in the air, really like putrid smell.
Yeah.
And I've heard other people who have reported seeing Bigfoot or having an encounter, same kind of thing. There's a horrible odor.
Yeah.
And you said that you had heard footsteps. Based on what you're telling me, it kind of sounds like if this, whatever this thing was, may have been, associating the odor to it, may have been checking you guys out and then was heading downhill about the time you guys saw it. So when they went down the hill to, do the size comparison, did they report like smelling anything in the air or anything?
They didn't. No. I wondered about that myself. I asked that right away, but they never did smell anything. And it was very faint smell. It wasn't like something that knocked your socks off or anything. It was just something. And where we heard the footsteps, if let's say, pretend it was Bigfoot, like it would have gone to our left and around to get back to where it went down that power line cut. And people in Bigfoot circles call those like Bigfoot highways, because the theory is there's a lot of sightings in them. And the theory is that they would take the easiest way to get through the woods, and that would be those cuts.
Sure.
I see.
Be like wildlife trails following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible to think that you sent a man down there that was 6'9" and
he still looked small, right?
He really did. It was one of the more shocking things that I've experienced. I also, I'm not trying to talk myself out of it being Bigfoot, but I also don't try to talk myself into it being Bigfoot.
I would say I don't want to fool.
Yeah, and I don't want to fool other people, but I don't want to fool myself most of all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know there was adrenaline involved. It's creepy. You're out in the dark, and you saw something, because even if it was a person, that's creepy. Like, who was that?
Right.
So I don't know how to explain it though. That's one of the things that has happened that I can't explain away.
Wow. Right.
I'm sure you've thought about this, but any chance it could have been a bear or something like that, or did you rule that out?
I can't rule it out completely, but how you could see the shoulders and how it seemed to be walking on
That's
two
what
legs.
I would say. With a bear,
like
they don't necessarily
far.
have shoulders.
Right. They're like more slumped.
Yep.
And just, I don't know, like we were thinking of anything. We're like, could it have been a deer with an owl on top of, that was doing this on top of the deer's head, or, like anything that it could be. I can't rule out anything. And I also can't rule out hoaxing, because there were people that knew we were there. How they would have hoaxed that, at how big it was, I don't know. And it was quiet. Like, besides those footprints that we first heard to the left of us, we didn't hear anything like bumbling down there. So I don't know.
It'd be hard to hoax that heat signature too, because you said it was coming through solid black.
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'd have taken off. Sorry, guys, I'm not staying another night. But you said you had another experience.
I had one of those weird ones. I said there's weird things that happen, and then people attribute it to Bigfoot, and I'm not sure if they should.
Sure.
Well, a couple years ago, Big Kevin was there again. There were a handful of us that were taking, of all people, a reporter from the Wall Street Journal out Bigfooting. They had heard of me. It turned into this whole story. It was supposed to be just this like paragraph that he was going to write about an event that I was speaking at. And it turned into an article, and we still talk because he got really interested in the whole project we're doing with the scientists and stuff. So that's, I didn't even need to say all that, but that's who was there. So we were in the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania, and we were pretty remote. We had seen a bear, we had seen bobcat, all these different animals and everything on our way to get to where we were primitive camping, with our shovels and everything,
Sure.
No bathrooms. So it was an old logging road. And I swear that some of the potholes were going to swallow our cars, which is important. It's not an easy place to get to.
Sure.
So we knew that the reporter was coming the next day. So we were not in Bigfoot mode. We were in like, oh my God, the Wall Street Journal is coming here, and we don't want to look stupid. So we had set up camp. We had all gone to sleep or tried to go to sleep. And I was in my little tent by myself, and I couldn't sleep. And I was trying to like play a game on my phone. Like there was no signal up there or anything like that. Trying to see if I could get one because I was just like feeling a little nervous because I love camping and like I said, I'll go by myself, but I still get scared sometimes. So it was just kind of a creepy vibe and very, very dark. And I was in my tent by myself. Kevin was in a tree hammock with his daughter in a hammock above him, and the dog was underneath. Then friends, I can say their names, Monica and Tina. Monica was in a tent further from me the other way. Tina was in her minivan sleeping in there. So, I mean, you could drive into where we were. We weren't, a lot of times we'll go hiking into places, but this you could drive into, but it was still remote. So I'm in my tent and all of a sudden I'm lying there and I feel what I thought at the time was like my heart start beating. And I'm doing much better now. I'm like almost really better, but I have heart failure from COVID. I got really, really sick a few years ago. So at that time, I hadn't been camping a lot and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're like miles and miles and miles away from civilization and something's wrong with my heart. Like that's the first thing I thought because it was just like beating out of my chest. And so that made me even more nervous. And I lay there for a while. That went away finally. And I lay there for a while. It was a windy night. I am 100% sure if a truck or car would have come down that road, we would have heard it. There was nobody else on that road that we had seen all day going up and down. And there are some other like carved out places you could pull over and camp. Nobody else was there. So it was about an hour, like within an hour, but I'd say closer to an hour later, that I'm lying in my tent, still can't sleep because I'm upset about that heart thing. And I hear the most god-awful sound I've ever heard in my life. All I can describe it as, and I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying it, is like one of those like island warriors where they're doing the haka or whatever, like
yeah.
But it was like loud and like I feel like if I was standing in front of whatever was doing it, my hair would have like blown back, like in a cartoon. It was so powerful. I am not an expert in all the animals out there, but I do believe I would have known if it was a black bear. I analyze sounds a lot with what I do, because I don't want to be fooled by things. People will send me sounds of black bear and foxes and all these different owls and all these different things. I don't think that is what it was, but do I know it wasn't? No, but it was, I've just never heard anything that powerful, that crazy sounding in the woods. So that really terrified me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is how it ends.
I bet this Wall Street Journal guy was shitting his pants.
Well, he wasn't there yet. He wasn't coming till the next day. That's what was so disappointing. Like we weren't ready and we didn't have any of our audio recorders out. Like we wanted to show him where to put them. So we were not prepared, of course, right? Your camera doesn't work when Bigfoot walks by or something.
Yeah.
So I am in that tent. And of course, because it scared me so badly, I'm like, oh no, I have to go to the bathroom. Sorry, Mom, TMI. So I'm like, I have to get out of this tent. There's something out there. I don't want to go. So I'm like laughing and crying at the same time. But I unzip this tent and I'm like, Monica, like guard me while I go do whatever I need to do. And I ended up sleeping in my car that night. And like, I don't do that. Like just for my own pride, I try to stay in that tent, even if I'm scared. But the interesting part that kind of puts us all together is the next day at breakfast, like we're drinking coffee, around the campfire. And Tina started saying, well, I hate to say this, but I think I have to leave. And we're like, what do you mean you have to leave? Like, this is going to be great. The photographer's coming, all this stuff. It'll be really cool. And she said, no, I was sleeping last night and I think I had some kind of heart problem. I was feeling like these what did she call it? Like palpitations. Yeah. And Monica and I like both whipped our heads at her because I hadn't said anything yet. She hadn't said anything. We all felt that.
Weird.
So,
wow.
It is so weird. So here's the weirder part. So again, to try to debunk it after the fact, we looked into fracking around there. We looked, was there any seismic activity? Anything else that could be. I described it after the fact as that scene in Jurassic Park where the T-Rex is walking in the water glasses. That's kind of what it was like, but it felt like, or like the bass of music, like it'd be a music on or something. Oh, and the other thing was when that scream happened, the dog was barking at it and then barking the other way. And Kevin like scooped up the dog into his little hammock tent, so we were all kind of bothered by it. But
so the whole camp heard the sound.
The two of us did. Kevin's dog did. Monica did. Tina was in her minivan, but Kevin was further away. Tina, I still don't know how she didn't hear it, but she was sleeping. Like I was still awake.
Okay.
When this all happened, they were sleeping, so something woke them up, but they weren't sure what. But we all felt it. So there are theories about infrasound when it comes to Bigfoot. Like tigers emit this infrasound that can affect people. There's different animals that have that ability. Like, could Bigfoot have that? I don't know, but that's just a theory because other people have experienced these weird feelings, and the fright and all of that. I don't know. I also don't necessarily say that it was Bigfoot that I heard or I felt because I didn't see Bigfoot,
Sure.
So I don't know what it was. But Kevin went up. We all hiked up on the hill the next day when the reporter did get there. And there was like a huge rock that Big Kevin, again, he's a strong guy. He could not move this rock, but it had been lifted out of its hole or whatever and placed over like on a different thing. It was right directly above where all of us were. And I know none of that proves Bigfoot. So whoever's listening out here, I understand that. But there was all these weird things that happened.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it doesn't have to be Bigfoot. All that in itself
scary.
is horrifying.
Yeah.
It was. It's scary.
So if you had to guess, I mean, I know you can't know like officially, but if you had to guess how far away this scream was.
It didn't feel that. I'm really bad at distances, but I'm lying in my tent. I would say it was within 50 feet.
Oh, dear.
Coming out of the
that's
woods.
too close. That's too close.
Yeah, I thought you were talking like an acre away or some shit.
No, it was like there. It was there. That's why it was so terrifying.
Well,
Tina said she could see me in my car all night, like with my headlamp going back and forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Out of here.
Jesus.
And then I had the next day, nothing happened. And of course, when they were there, and I slept back in my tent again because I am not going to be a baby when this reporter's here. But nothing happened for him, unfortunately. But we got to see a flying squirrel through the FLIR and an owl, and that was cool.
Damn. I bet he was kicking himself in the ass for coming a day later.
Right.
Wow. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was glad.
Maybe not.
The heart palpitation thing happening with so many people. That's what's
it was weird.
Baffled.
We had all three of us had nightmares about that for a while, and I still get creeped out when I think about it. I don't know what it was. I don't know.
Well, it would make sense if it's like a real low sound that you guys couldn't hear, but it's still like vibrating,
Yeah.
Right.
And if it was that close, I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Very weird.
Damn.
So that's a weird thing that's happened.
Whatever it was sending a call out like campers or found them or something.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I had something happen when I was out in Oregon. We were part of the Olympic project. We were camping out at Mount Hood National Park.
Okay.
We had hiked in, I don't know how many miles we had hiked in, and we were just camping alongside a lake. And we were hearing, I mean, this happens quite often. You just hear some weird things, like some calls, whooping calls that you don't know what they are. like tree knocks that they have on different TV shows and stuff. But that's something chimpanzees do, is to knock on trees with either rocks or sticks and things like that. But we had I don't think you can buy them anymore, but you used to be able to buy online these things called sasquatch pheromone chips, which they really were like gorilla, or whatever, primate pheromones. And we put one in a tree across the lake, and we were hearing all these weird sounds. And then we found a possible footprint below that tree where we had put one. So it wasn't big enough to cast, but because it was shallow just on the path. But all those things together are pretty interesting. And it was right in an area where one of our members, that's where he saw one. He said he saw one.
Wow. You are braver than I. I would not be out there.
I don't know. I get nervous. We were out in Montana on the Blackfeet Reservation. We had been invited out there, some of Project Zoobook's members. And we had just seen grizzly bears that day. And I mean, they were kind of far away, but still, I'm in my little tent there overlooking Glacier National Park. And I'm like, why do I do this to myself? I'm supposed to go to Alaska in 2 years, and I'm already having like pre-fear from it. But I love it. It's also very fun.
Are there a lot of Alaskan sightings?
There are, and they're scary ones. Like when you go to the Alaska sightings, like it depends. If you go like down to Florida, there people say they have the skunk ape, and then I think it's North Carolina, they have the wood booger, they call it. So you have like different types of sightings all across North America. And then when you go to Alaska, they seem to be more like violent. The hairy man sightings out there, like they're more threatening anyway. There's legends, like if you go to Port Locke, Port Chatham, there's this old town that was abandoned, and people say it was because the hairy man was killing people, but even the Alaska Bigfoot stories that aren't so bloodthirsty, they're a little more frightening. So I want to go. I'm going, but I'm still pre-scared.
Yeah.
You're approaching it with a level of security.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. So what I say, people will say, well, don't go die out looking for Bigfoot since you lived. And I'm like, well, I don't have a death wish, but I have a life wish. I want to do these things that I think are really fun and interesting. And so I mean it when I say I'd rather, get eaten by a Bigfoot than, be in a hospital or something.
Sure.
So, that's just my personality, I guess.
Based on all the stories you've heard over the years and your personal experiences, if you say one day were to come face to face with this creature, are you inclined to believe that's what it would do? Try to eat you? What do you think would happen?
No, I don't think so. I mean, my own thought is it would be like any other creature, whether if we're looking the right way, and I'm not claiming that I am, but if my opinions and theories are right, and it's some type of a large primate, whether more orangutan-like or more human-like or Gigantopithecus or whatever, I think they could be dangerous. I don't want to meet a chimpanzee out in the woods.
Oh,
meet a gorilla, right? I'd rather meet a gorilla than a chimpanzee. So they could be dangerous, but I don't think they're out to be dangerous.
Right.
I don't think they're trying to eat us or anything like that. But I would be, oh man, if I came around a corner and saw one, I know I'd probably crumple on the ground and cry. I'm not going to be the one like, hi, forest friend, or whatever. I'm going to be crying, but I'll be excited.
Try to hand a flower.
Right. I just know it. I know that about myself. But no, I think, I've heard scary stories. I've heard a lot of stories about them bluff charging people like gorillas do, but
threat displays, stuff like that.
Yeah. I personally have never taken a report where they were threatening or hurting anybody.
Yeah, that's where Alaska comes in.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I have to ask, you've mentioned a few times already about Project Zoobook. Can you tell us about Project Zoobook?
Oh yeah, thank you. I just can't stop talking about it. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
Basically, we're a think tank, is what we call ourselves. So we've been around for about 6 years, and for a long time, it was really under the radar. And we're starting to come out of the Bigfoot closet, I like to say. Um, I, as a teacher, my principal, she doesn't care. She might think I'm weird. She doesn't tell me I am, but she, my job is safe, even though I look for Bigfoot. But we have a lot of scientists involved who their jobs might not be, or at least their funding might not be safe if they, say, hey, this is something I'm taking absolutely seriously. So basically, 6 years ago, I met a group of primate zoologists through a Facebook group. And I didn't know what they did at first. I just knew that they wanted to go out looking for Bigfoot. Then I found out what they did and that they work with gorillas and chimps and macaques and all these animals. And I was like, man, this is like a wealth of information here that, selfishly that could help us on the researcher side, but unselfishly, like they wanted us to help them because they really thought at the time that Bigfoot could be real from different podcasts they listened to. From one of them had gone to a museum in Cherry Log, Georgia about Bigfoot. She just went with her dad to be nice to her dad. And then she's like, wow, this is really interesting. So what I did right away was, okay, I love Bigfoot. I've read every book that I could ever find about Bigfoot. I feel like I'm fairly knowledgeable about it, but I also know my limitations. And I don't believe there are any Bigfoot experts, but there are people who know more about different things than I sure do.
Right.
So I started finding people to talk to them, and we started having just group phone calls every Thursday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time since 2018. And then eventually we started doing Zoom calls like these, like when, that we didn't know what they were at first. And we're like, oh, we can see each other, So we have, we went from that first small group of primate zookeepers. I started getting researchers like from Washington State, the Olympic Project. They have such cool stuff going on out there, all these different scientifically minded researchers. And then more scientists wanted to be involved. And I went on a few podcasts, and then more scientists wanted to be involved. So when I count up all the scientists who could be on one of our Zoom meetings, and everybody's not there every week, but we have over 40 scientists now that are
crazy.
deeply interested in this, and some who say they've seen them.
Really?
So it's a lot of them are still hopeful skeptics, but some of them say they have seen one, and so they say they are knowers. So we're just trying. We have different side projects going on. If you want to see a really cool place to look up Bigfoot sightings, there's a thing called the Bigfoot Mapping Project. And one of our members, he came up with that. He has an app and a website, but it has like Bigfoot sightings from all different databases. And you could like click on the Bigfoot and then see what all the stories and stuff. So he's one of the members. Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, who's an anthropologist and a professor of anatomy out at Idaho State. He's out of the Bigfoot closet very much so I can say his name. But he hangs out with us once in a while, when he can. He's very busy. But we have primatologists, anthropologists, marine biologists, which kind of interesting stories sometimes how they get involved. But just all these people who are legitimately interested in this and who think it's something worth checking out.
That's so cool.
It really is. I don't know. I guess there's people who think this kind of a thing is something that a scientist would not deem worth their time, but quite the antithesis, quite the opposite, right? I mean, there's so many sightings out there just over the years. And of course, there's going to be hoax, like you said before, but with as many sightings as there's been, I mean, where there's smoke, there's typically fire of some kind, right?
There's something, yeah.
There's
got to be something out there making all this
and
ruckus.
Something's leaving footprints. Dr. Meldrum has a vast collection of footprints that he's gotten from different people, like Dr. John Bindernagel, who was a wildlife biologist in Canada who passed away a couple of years ago. But But Dr. Meldrum has all these, and, a lot of the footprints have dermal ridges on them that show they're, a living creature made these. And one of our members, he heads up a small group down at North Carolina State. They are looking for anybody who has possible Bigfoot hair or sebum or whatever, like some kind of film left on a window or something like that, to send it to them. And they're doing a DNA project down with some geneticists and things like that.
Wow.
The Olympic project I'm involved in out in Washington State, where we're looking at ground nests that were found by a logging company. And there have been footprints and handprints and hair found. And we just like to tell people that, I say this a lot, but it's true. We're not out there looking for Smurfs. A lot of people equate it to that, but we're looking for a real living being that might be there. And I really want to say that one of the biggest reasons I personally think Bigfoot is real today, okay, is because of the Native Americans.
Right.
I very much think that, like, over in Africa and Asia, when gorillas, mountain gorillas, cross river gorillas, more recently, billy apes, all of these things, there was a new orangutan species found in 2017, when they were all thought to be made up by the tribes over there, by the indigenous people over there. They were just moral tales, or they were something to scare their kids, out of the jungle or whatever. I feel strongly that we could be doing the same thing here with our indigenous people. They're telling us that the hairy man, the Inamitapi, which is what the Blackfeet call them, that they're real and they're not just spiritual. Eagles are spiritual, buffalo are spiritual, so is the Inamitapi. But when we were out there, we had a lady telling us about how there was one in her dumpster the other day, and a guy who saw one walking a ridgeline. They're not just spiritual. And I feel like they're just another cryptid. Gorillas used to be cryptids. They were creatures that didn't have enough proof. I think we might be doing the same thing over here in North America.
That's so cool.
That is a very interesting take. I never thought about that. Because, that's been the biggest question. It's like, how is it over all these years, there's been no pictures or anything, but, it's just something we may not understand, something that's very good at hiding itself, very good at being elusive. Maybe the population's extremely low, You
remember that last scene in Harry and the Hendersons? They were all standing there until they started walking, and you seen a whole bunch of them.
You're right. The Cross River gorillas, they think there are about 200 to 300 left. They're in an area on the border of Cameroon and Nigeria in the Cross River region. And they were finally caught on video this century. I think it was 2012, 2009, maybe. And we couldn't find them. We could not find them. One of our scientists knows the Western scientist who lived over there. I believe it was for 8 years, trying to find these gorillas, lived with some tribal members out there all the time. And finally, after 8 years, saw a few of them for 10 seconds. That was it. Didn't get any pictures. They're really good at staying away from people. And that first video we got of the gorillas, the Cross River gorillas, it's really cool. You can Google it. And there are several female gorillas that are looking, they're coming through the trees, and they're all looking at the camera. So they are aware of it. And then there's a silverback that comes into view, and he's bluff charging the camera. So they're all super aware of it, whether that is they smell it, hear something we don't, just see it, and it's not, where they, it just sticks out to them. I don't know, but it's, they avoided it all those years. We couldn't find them, and there's not that many of them left. So our goal with Project Zoobook and the Olympic project, in a very, small nutshell, is that if and when these would be proven, whether a body is found or whatever, that we could just be a part of having collected some different evidence or ideas that we could hand over to whoever could protect them. Because our groups are not, Yeah, so our groups are not groups that are out to kill one, but we want to help protect them someday. And conservation is a big part of Bigfooting anyway. I often tell scientists to try to lure them into Zoobook. I'm like, you will never find a more committed group of people, except for hunters, probably, I'm sure, that want to go out, get dirty, get in the woods, look for things, like harness the power of Bigfooting because, maybe we'll find some kind of plant that you were looking for or
Right.
a muskrat or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
We want the woods to stay the woods.
Yeah.
So as a non-scientist, how can people help Project Zoobook or, how can we contribute to that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, one of the things we love is to have any witnesses come on and tell us their stories. Because again, that's one of the ways that our original scientists got interested. They were hearing people's stories and they were hearing things that sounded very primate-like to them. So that's one way. Another way, I'm not a scientist. I teach reading and English. I am a certified volunteer naturalist now. I take survival classes and all that kind of thing. But I'm not a credentialed scientist. But you want to do some work. You want to get out there in the field. You want to do some micro studies of an area. That's what I do. I have a little spot in the Alleghenies, and I chose it because there would be enough food, enough water. There have been sightings there. And I've been doing a several-year micro-study of that area, logging down what flora and fauna there is there. What could they be eating? Looking for hair, looking for tracks. Do I find them? No, I'm not. I am not the lucky one. But someday, maybe. Maybe.
You're not going to find them if you're not looking for them.
Right. Exactly.
And what we'll do is we'll put links for Zoobook and Olympic Project in the description for this episode. So if people, do want to reach out, maybe we can reach a larger number of people with this and get some responses for you.
Would love that.
That would be awesome. Thank you, Amy, so much for taking time to be here and tell us these incredible stories. You had me on the edge of my seat. I feel like my heart's beating hard now.
Well, thank you.
I know next month when I'm on my way up to visit my mom, I'm going to be keeping my eyes extra peeled crossing Meander.
Right.
Actually, when you do that,
Meander.
take a picture. Take a picture. I'd love to see that area, Jack, when you're going over that.
When we go to New York, we may actually go up that area because if we take 76 over there,
76 to 80, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, just point it out to me then. I'll get some pictures.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, Randy, jump that fence. We need a scaled photo of those.
Yes, we do. You get in trouble.
Go stand next to it.
It's for Amy!
Yeah.
Oh, my God. But once again, thank you so much, Amy, for taking time to be here and tell us your stories.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
And happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween.
All right, and once again, that was our conversation with Amy Bue. We want to thank her for stopping by our Halloween episode today and talking about her experiences tracking Bigfoot. Damn! If I was sitting in a tent late at night in the middle of fucking nowhere, and see, that's the thing, too. I was going to say, and heard this thing scream, yell, just yards from my tent, I was about to say I'd get out of there, but I believe she said they had to hike quite a while to get out there. So where are you going?
Yeah. Nowhere
deeper
fast.
into its territory.
Running right into it.
Oh, hell yeah, exactly. You're just you're just prey then, right?
Not only that, seeing it on the thermal and then walking up and trying to get like a height difference and having like a freaking like huge guy in his own right on your team making it look not even close to that. Yeah.
And the images on those thermals are very, very good. I mean, they don't take crap pictures. You can see what I mean. Yes.
I totally agree, Jack. Couldn't agree more.
I've seen them before. I've seen them.
Them picture devices take good pictures.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing to think about. The height comparison between the shadowed supposed Bigfoot and Mervin. Man, that would scare me, knowing something that big's out there.
Especially if you sent someone to compare it to that was out there that was big to begin with. Like she said, he was like, what, 6-7 foot or something like that?
Yeah, and still wasn't measuring as high.
Yeah.
I feel, that's being a hell of a guinea pig. Like, hey, why don't you go down there where that big fucking thing just was? Because I'm not. But you go down there.
Hey, you're a skeptic. Walk right down there where we saw something weird and let us know how it turns out for you.
And while you're at it, maybe don't die, But it was, my God, I was at the edge of my seat with those stories. I don't know if I would, I don't know. You never hear of anyone like who doesn't return from a Bigfoot hunt. You never really hear of anyone who comes back maimed or having a close call. So I guess I would go. You just get to hang out in the woods at night, hear something yell, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, too, how many people are going out there on the weekend drunk with their friends looking for Bigfoot and you never hear from them again?
Those are the Jack Links commercials.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what those dumbasses come from. Yeah.
Yeah. Be sure to find Amy on Instagram at Bigfoot Amy and on Facebook. We're looking to see, we can't remember if there are other links for Amy. If we find them, though, in the meantime, we'll put them in the description below. But once again, we want to thank Amy so much for being on the show. And I'd like to maybe get her back in the future. It sounded like she probably had some more experiences that maybe we just didn't have time for today, right?
Oh, hell yeah. And I would love to take you guys out. Let's go on a hunt, man. Let's go in the woods.
All right.
And I'll keep you all posted on my way up to visit my mom. Right there, going over the reservoir. If there's any piles sitting there.
If you are able to, without crashing the car, snap a picture of that area she was talking about. I'd like to see it.
I will. It's easy, and I know when it's coming up, so I could have it ready and stuff.
Okay, just be safe. Don't crash. Okay.
90 miles an hour.
Okay. Well, after that trip to Cleveland, man, I wonder. I thought we were turning over on that exit ramp. Anyway, shit. Jack, tell these lovely people where they can find us.
Go to cannedairpodcast.com where you can listen, follow, like us, subscribe, become a patron, buy some merch, and if you'd like to be a guest and promote your work, send us an email on our contacts page.
Don't forget to find us on X at CannedAirPod on... that still feels dirty. Don't forget to find us on Twitter at CannedAirPod, on Instagram at canned_air, and on TikTok at CannedAirPodcast. And once again, CannedAirPodcast.com. 2 different ways you can support us there. There's a merch tab. Get you shirts, mugs, hoodies, hats, stickers, all that kind of stuff with our logo and different art designs on them, Canned Air inspired. And if you don't want merch, if extra content is your game, then head over to our Patreon. Only $5 a month to get you access to a 5-year plus growing catalog. Hours and hours of stuff on there. Some of my favorite content. I'm not just saying that because I want that $5 bill in your wallet. It's the truth. It's been described as where we go to hang out, the behind-the-scenes show. So let that be some incentive. And if you don't have money to support us, then just leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, that notification bell, man. All that fun shit, right?
Canned Air BTS. Only on Patreon.
Yeah, there you go. Boy. You saying that with like the red in the background was almost like a one of those commercials that come on Fox after 1 a.m.
Dial 1-900-JACK.
No, I won't.
It might be a thing.
However you make a living is whatever is your prerogative, man. Whatever floats your boat.
Sweet.
And on that note, huge shout out to evergreenpodcast.com, the network we are so proud to be a part of. And if you want to see us crazy fuckers at any time soon, and if you're in the Columbus area, come see us at the Tour Gaming Expo November 1st through the 3rd at the Greater Columbus Convention Center.
Yes, there it is. We're going to be there selling our wares, trying to make a few extra dollars, and meeting some of our friends, fans, making new friends in the process. So yeah, come on out. Bleh. So yeah, come on out. It's going to be a lot of fun. It always is. It always is. More fun than I think any of us are ever expecting, right? Even though we're just working.
Yeah, it's fun every year.
Still fun. So, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for part 2 of our Halloween episode. I'm sure somewhere just below this or someone right after this in our feed is going to be part 3 and the final part of our 2024 Halloween episodes. So until then, I am Jeremy Colley.
I'm Jack Doherty.
And I'm Randy Hardenbrook.
There, you got it down, Randy. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and happy Halloween.